Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. Today we're doing another analysis and breakdown of a loadout. Specifically, the most popular loadout in the entire game. Granted, it is weighted more towards Nightfalls, but according to LightGG, this is just the most popular loadout across all PvE activities. And after running this loadout myself and testing it against the endgame, I can totally see why so many people use it. So, to start, what actually is it, and then we'll look at why it is. So to do the big reveal that totally wasn't a part of the thumbnail or the title, the number one loadout right now is Outbreak Perfected plus Indebted Kindness. With such little effort, these weapons will carry you to success in pretty much any activity that isn't a raid boss. And even then, 6 outbreaks can cook. But breaking this down piece by piece to give an analysis of why so many people are using it, let's start at the top with Outbreak Perfected. This is the exotic of choice, and generally it's been an amazing weapon to run since pulse rifles received their massive buff at the launch of the final shape. But that buff alone isn't what makes this gun so good. So what else is contributing to its popularity? Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is how this weapon excels at both cleaning up adds and dealing big damage to higher health enemies. Of course, this is because of its exotic kit being perfect for both cases. So looking at that, we have the main perk, the Corruption Spreads, where this weapon creates Siva nanite swarms on rapid hits and precision kills. As the main exotic perk, this carries most of the weight, and this is what gives us those little red nanites that make this weapon so good. But pairing that with its second exotic perk, Parasitism, this weapon does more damage to enemies based on the number of Siva nanites that attach to them. So, like most exotics, the main exotic perk and the secondary exotic perk synergize together. Whether you're getting precision kills or laying into a single enemy, Parasitism will proc, increasing just the damage that Outbreak flat out does to that enemy. And then of course, that isn't all, because we have 2 more perks on this weapon. The other one, which comes on all outbreaks, is the Catalyst, Disease Vector, which reads, increases nanite damage. Enemies that die with nanites attached to them generate additional nanites. So yeah, more nanites, more damage. Pretty simple to understand for a Catalyst. But where things get a little bit more interesting is, since this is a crafted exotic, we have our perks of choice. You have your magazine, barrel, and stock, which I don't really feel like talking about, but we have the main perk here, which most people are running rewind rounds, which reads, when this weapon's magazine is empty, it refills from reserves based on the number of hits. And yes, nanite hits do count for this. So when you have a weapon that deals good damage, then spawns those nanites off of either dealing damage or getting kills, which then increases the outgoing damage of Outbreak alongside rewind rounds, which allows you to just fire forever, almost. You can see why this exotic is just good on its own. But ultimately, it's also a pulse rifle. And an interesting thing with popularity in this game that I've found myself is that ease of use is a massive factor. Pulse rifles with their longer range make them perfect for sitting behind cover, away from danger, while still being able to take care of enemies. This is the same reason that led to Polaris Lance being in everybody's loadout last season. But as an example for how important ease of use is to the average Destiny player, a well-oiled team that has their synergy down pat can take double rocket sidearms and prismatic titan into liminality and crush it in 10 minutes. But that's for the highest echelon of player. The average player can just slap on Outbreak Perfected, outrange most of the enemies, and coast their way to success. So the contributing factors to Outbreak being so popular and a part of the number one loadout in the game are its incredible ad clear with the ability to handle beefy targets, the synergy in its kit that also synergizes with other outbreaks if you happen to be in a fire team with more than just one, and the fact that it's just a pulse rifle. There is also the artifact, but we'll look at that once we've gone over the other 2 weapon slots. Which next is Indebted Kindness. This rocket sidearm needs a little introduction, and in my previous video where I analyzed all 3 of them, this is actually the rocket sidearm that I deemed the best. And the reasoning for that was simple. As a rocket sidearm, it has incredible ammo economy, great damage output, and when running Volt Shot, because you should be running Volt Shot, it has some of the best ad clear in the game. And what's particularly interesting in this loadout is that Outbreak and Indebted Kindness fulfill the same role. They both are focused on dealing with trash ads while having the capability to handle tankier targets. Also, Volt Shot stuns champions, but more on that when we look at how the artifact plays into this loadout. And then the last thing to see before we go over that is our heavy weapon, which according to LightGG is just some kind of machine gun. The top two that I've seen are Commemoration or Pro Memoria, simply because those two machine guns just work the best as machine guns. And I'm starting to actually see a pattern here. Once again, this choice of weapon does what the other two already do. You can easily clear ads while also being able to output okay damage against larger targets. Personally, I'd swap this for a rocket or GL, but as this video is breaking down the most popular loadout, I just need to represent it how it is. Granted, if you want to take this video and the dim link that I'll have down below, it's going to have a rocket in it, because a machine gun on top of what you already have is a bit overkill. But with that, we now have the artifact to look at and how these weapons interact, which makes them so damn good. And it essentially comes down to champions. Anti-barrier pulse plus unstoppable sidearm makes this loadout a counter to every champion in the game, because Volt Shot, of course, stuns overload champions. And these two weapons work so intuitively to handle those champions. Outbreak can simply outrange anti-barrier champions and then build up damage over time until they just die, constantly re-breaking the shield or killing them on the first stun. Indebted Kindness will be the harder hitting weapon, and it's what you're going to start with when handling overloads or unstops. And then once they've been stunned, you can either choose to continue with Indebted Kindness or swap over to your heavy. So both weapons excel at stunning and then following up with the kill of their respective champions. And then outside of dealing with champions, which is what most of in-game is, any of the three weapons can be used at any point. This loadout never penalizes you for using a specific weapon, and I think that's why it's so easy for any player to pick up and use in any activity. This loadout truly is just the ultimate ease of use plug and play loadout. And then lastly, what exotics and builds do this fit into? Well, as loadout suggests, it can go with pretty much anything. For Warlocks, Getaway Artist is the most popular exotic / build, which is also what I ran when getting footage for this video. For Hunters, it's Relativism with seemingly either the bread and butter combination blow plus Liar's handshake combo, or using survivability with something like Sitarachnes. And then for Titans, yeah, it's just Consecration spam. Ultimately though, you can run whatever you like, as this loadout requires nothing to be built into for it to work on all cylinders. And that's all I really had to say. I've kind of enjoyed myself using this loadout. I probably won't be running it that much, but I understand why there are so many people out there who have gravitated towards this. So I'd really like to know down below if you've used this loadout. Again, it's the most popular combo of weapons in the game, so it would actually be surprising if you hadn't used this. But I still want to hear from you nonetheless. And once again, thank you so much for watching this far into the video. It really means a lot to me. If you want to support me and support the channel, a like, a comment, a subscription goes a very long way. But if you want to support me and support the channel but you can't think of a comment down below, Loadout. And with that, as usual, I hope you are having a great day, and I hope to see you around.